Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Sheena Whyatt is a business coach and the founder of the KAPOW coaching programme. Pre-pandemic, Sheena would drive hundreds of miles a week to attend networking meetings, but it's a very different story now. Thank you very much for being my podcast guest today, Sheena.
It's my pleasure, Liz. It's lovely to talk to you again.
Yes, this is the second time you've been on the podcast, and I was just checking back, and the last time was April 2021. I'm pretty sure things have probably changed a bit since then.
Just a tad.
So first of all, let's have a chat about your business. Remind us what it is you do and how you do it.
Super. Yeah, absolutely. I am a business coach. So I run KAPOW, which is your super business coach. And actually what I do is I work with overwhelmed business owners and help them get the drive, the determination and the focus back to get their brand, their business and themselves all going in the same direction with business coaching that works, but only if they let it.
And so what kind of clients do you work with? Are they from all sorts of different businesses?
Absolutely. Yeah, all sorts of different businesses. I suppose the common denominator is they tend to be business owners who work for themselves, solopreneurs, micro businesses, that kind of thing. Mm. But I also work with corporate CEOs. I worked with people involved in motorsport, single seat racing drivers, etc. So really it's just anybody looking for that bit of accountability and focus to get their business from where it is now to where they want it to be.
And does it matter whereabouts in the world they are?
Absolutely not. That's one of the joys of how the world has changed for me is, as you know, we've known each other a long time. I live in deepest, darkest South Lincolnshire, which quite a lot of people at that stage will be going, where? And that's kind of the point. So by being able to deliver coaching online, I coach people all across the UK and in Europe and indeed have a client or two over there on the other side of the pond in the States.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? This digital world where you can just connect with people anywhere.
Yeah, it has truly been an absolute game changer and something that, you know, if you've embraced it and you've looked at the opportunity of it, you know, has been certainly for me and a lot of my clients a real direction changer with regards to growing their business.
Yeah. Now, I know that networking was instrumental to you getting your business off the ground. Can you just talk us through that?
Yes, yeah, it was. And actually, I'm giggling a little bit because, crikey, that was a lifetime ago. You know, the business that I was running at the time came about in a series of fairly dramatic circumstances and tied in with a house move. My husband was a pilot in the Royal Air Force at that time. And so all of a sudden I had a brand new business in a new location where I didn't know anybody. And I very quickly realised I needed to, frankly, meet people and try and make some connections for my business. So I knew I needed to network. I really didn't want to because, you know, the thought of having to go and introduce a brand new business to a room full of people I didn't know was a bit daunting at the time.
Yeah.
And I tried a few things and some of it was catastrophically disastrous. So by the time I got to trying the last networking, I'd set myself a task of trying different things through a particular month. I really wasn't feeling the love for networking at all, Liz. But it just so happened that the stars aligned and I dragged myself along to this networking meeting. I left it as late as I possibly could before I turned up, which makes me cringe now. But the welcome that I received and how quickly the people who were running it put me at my ease. Just, you know, I just thought, I think I've found it. And, you know, that was 13 years ago. I'm still a member of the same organisation. And it did. It was a complete and utter mind change for me, mindset change, embraced the whole idea of networking, got involved with the organisation from the get-go because I knew if I didn't, I would find a lot of excuses and reasons to not bother to turn up and all that kind of thing. And it has been absolutely fundamental to how I took a completely new business with no clients whatsoever and ended up where I am today doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And is networking still as important for your business?
Yes, it is, but in a different way, which I think is interesting. So, you know, at the beginning of my networking journey, it was all about growth. It was all about getting eyes on my business. Basically, Liz, it was about getting people to buy my stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, 13 years on, of course, it's still about getting people to buy my stuff. I'm still on the lookout for new clients, but it's more about networking to build relationships, extend my connections, but also what I find networking does more for my business at the moment is it continues to build on that solid foundation. It's building that reputation of knowing my onions, and that makes it easier, if you like, to become recognised in the field that I now occupy.
Yeah. So let's talk about the networking landscape then. It's changed a bit in the last 2 years, hasn't it?
Just a tad. Yes, just a tad. The first month after we went into first lockdown back in 2020, what I remember, Liz, most particularly, was doing my monthly accounts, and I was sitting looking at the business bank account in a right panic, wondering what I'd forgotten to pay. And, I'm thinking, this is crazy. There's all this money in the until the penny dropped that, of course, the previous 4 weeks I hadn't been networking.
Yeah.
Because we were in lockdown, obviously, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. And it just made me realise how much of my time and how much money I was spending running 26 face-to-face networking groups across an area of 3,500 square miles. And when I say that out loud now, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, can you describe to me what was a week like for Sheena Whyatt pre-pandemic?
Oh, good Lord. A week for Sheena Whyatt pre-pandemic, I wonder how I ever did it. I would, in one particular week, for example, if I was going to 3 of my face-to-face networking meetings in the furthest flung areas of my region, one would have been in Scunthorpe, and that is 90 minutes from where I live. So that would be the entire day, travelling to the meeting, running the meeting, debriefing the meeting, travelling home again. Similar for Downham Market, which is about 2 and a bit hours from me, same thing. And then going sort of east or west, believe it or not, Skegness is an absolute beasm to get to from Sleaford.
From anywhere, indeed.
From anywhere, yes, indeed. That is the whole thing. Running face-to-face networking in Lincolnshire, I wrote a blog about it, which actually said, why it takes over an hour to get anywhere, because, Google will blithely go, yes, you can get to Scunthorpe in 60 minutes, to which you laugh and think, yes, of course, if you can levitate, but not if you are trying to follow a pea viner, 2 tractors, all that kind of stuff. So my week would be mostly in the car. My mobile phone bill was astronomical. I was probably spending the best part pre-fuel hike prices of £100 a month on petrol, and fitting in the coaching around all of that. And it's that which I look at it and think, how on earth did I do that? It was crazy. So to say that lockdown made a massive impact on how I network is quite an understatement.
Yeah. So what does your week look like now?
My week, I love it. My commute is 3 steps from my kitchen into my home office, which is great. I very rarely get in the car, and when I do, I have to kind of remember how it works, because all of my business, all of my coaching is online, and so is my networking.
Yeah.
Because, when I looked at the logistics of it, as lockdown, began to ease and, a balance started to come back, yes, I'd thrown myself into online networking with a vengeance when we first went into all of those restrictions, but it wasn't sustainable in that form, because somewhere I had to be working for myself. I had to be, developing the coaching side of things. So a week for me now very much involves being home-based, which I really enjoy, more coaching than networking. And when I do network, it is online, but then there's all the opportunities that gives me that I never had when I was networking face-to-face.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that we would have come to this anyway without the pandemic?
Not in the way that it became about, I don't think. I think, yes, there would have been a move towards online networking, but I think it would always have been a back channel, something that you did to kind of fill in the time, if you see what I mean, because there was so much emphasis on relationship building face-to-face. But one of the things I think has been really interesting is by taking networking online, what it's done is it's accelerated the process, and I don't actually think that's necessarily a bad thing. not only has it accelerated the process by taking away all of the travel and the impact that that has on a small business, yes, of course, you can make calls while you're in the car, but they are never going to be meaningful, progressive calls because you're in the car.
Yeah.
You know, the clue's in the description there. And what I think online networking has done is help people cut to the chase a lot more quickly. Instead of, you know, maybe face-to-face networking, having 3 or 4 meetings to have, you know, face-to-face one-to-ones with people. Is this going to work? Is there a connection? Shall we take this further? Which was very much the norm before the pandemic hit. I think now, you know, certainly what I see is people come into an online meeting, they have that initial connection with you, whether it's a 10-minute one-to-one or it's a 5-minute, whatever it is, and the decision process is much faster. Do I think there's a connection? Am I going to take this conversation further? If I am, let's make that happen now. Would you like to have another chat? Would you like to book a call? Whatever it's happening, rather than, oh, I'll see you next time. 2 weeks later, you're going through the same beginning part of that process again. So I think that side of it has accelerated, and I'm not sure whether that would have happened as effectively as it has done if the pandemic hadn't been the accelerant.
Is there anything at all you miss about doing things the old way?
I do miss seeing real people. And I think what's interesting about that is, yes, I miss seeing real people, but not enough to go back to doing face-to-face networking in the same way that I did. And I think that's where the hybrid element is something that definitely needs to be explored a bit more often. Not only do I miss the people, I miss... And when I say I miss seeing people face-to-face, what I actually miss, if you like, is the banter.
Yeah.
The chat, the laughs, the relaxed networking around the formal bit, because that actually, to be fair, doesn't really translate online.
No.
You don't have the same connection as you would have people in the room. I won't lie, Liz, I also miss having a decent lunch every now and again. The commute to the kitchen, it might only be 3 steps, but every now and again, I think wistfully back to those networking lunches at curry houses and, posh hotels and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I think, overall, it's that connection with people, the easy chat and banter that I miss the most, really.
Yeah. Are you doing any face-to-face networking these days?
Hardly any at all, really. And part of that comes down to what we were joking about, really, a few minutes ago. There's very little of it where I live.
Yes.
And so when I look at the opportunities to face-to-face network, they're either at times that don't work for me, or that I don't want to work for me. I have absolutely no intention of getting into Lincoln for 6:30 in the morning. No, thank you. But the other options, they're very, very minimal and very sporadic. In an ideal world, if there was lunchtime face-to-face networking happening a couple of times a month that was close to me, I would be interested. But I'm more restricted about the fact that there's just not really much opportunity to network face-to-face around Sleaford in deepest southern Lincolnshire, funnily enough.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm finding about this sort of return to face-to-face is there has to be something to make me want to go to it. A good speaker or an opportunity for me to speak, perhaps. But just the old-fashioned, let's do business networking over lunch and everybody gives their pitch and kind of goes away again, it's really not that attractive anymore.
No, and I think that's one of the areas where we're now, certainly, and this is just my opinion, I think that business networking is now sort of on a seesaw, because there are people I talk to who really want that old-fashioned business networking, as you've just been talking. They want that back because that's what they know. It's safe, it's comfortable, and for a lot of people it worked. That regular fortnightly, I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get to pitch about my business. I'm going to get to listen to somebody talk. They know the format, so it feels comfortable and safe, and so they're willing to go back and do that again. And then you have people who've really embraced the online side of networking, that enjoy the fact it's not taking up huge chunks of their day to get to and from it, all of that kind of thing. But even that is also starting to feel a bit, well, frankly, tired. And I think as business owners are adapting to a hybrid business world now of working from home or working remotely, bit of face-to-face contact with clients. Certainly I'm noticing more corporate inquiries coming back, which have been pretty non-existent for the last 18 months. So, looking at a 90-minute online networking meeting sort of now starts to feel a bit, well, boring. And so I think that there's an opportunity at this stage to think maybe it's time to shake things up. Maybe it's time to give people an opportunity to simply connect. What I want is an opportunity to get in a room, for sake of argument, online with business owners based across the UK and just connect with them. I don't want to listen to a speaker, or that's maybe not the thing that's going to encourage me to come along and attend. Excuse me, because what I want is something that's a shorter footprint on my day, that I can use to blend in with face-to-face networking, as you said, an opportunity to go and speak, share my expertise, increase my credibility. I'd be more interested in that opportunity, both face-to-face and online.
Yeah.
But I think there is a potential at the moment for there to be a bit of a shake-up, and maybe to bring together some of the elements of the old face-to-face networking that worked, a structured introduction round, so that you can really hone not necessarily your elevator or introduction pitch, but maybe hone your sales pitch a little bit more. The opportunity to connect with more people in a meeting, and then being able to decide how you're going to follow up with that afterwards, that you could blend in with those more traditional online and face-to-face meetings where you have a business speaker as well.
Yeah. And maybe the online meetings don't need to be as long as the face-to-face ones were.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be my preference, I think, going forward, because I just think it's easier to fit a 60-minute meeting into your day than it is a 90-minute.
Yes.
And, and potentially you could do more of them by, taking some of what worked well in the face-to-face format, taking it out of the online format. And, certainly at the beginning of this process, when frankly, Liz, none of us knew what the heck we were doing, taking the face-to-face format and kind of squidging it into the online format, and the whole kind of, right, that'll do, was exactly the right thing to do. But I think scripted meetings, meetings that have a lot of verbal information around them, at this stage in the game, it's just like, no, I just want to come in here, I want to meet some people, I want to make some connections, and then I want to get on with the rest of my day.
Yeah.
I don't really need you to be reading me a chapter of War and Peace around it,
Yeah. And I think the other advantage of online is more people are able to access it. People who've got childcare issues, or are caring for an elderly relative, or they've got a sick pet at home, or hundreds of things that stop us from actually going out. People can now access networking without having to go anywhere.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing that makes this pitch point, this tip point for networking for small businesses, is to think, when are you offering networking opportunities? Online means that, I could look at my diary this week and I'm not thinking, oh, who am I going to hear speak, for example? I'm thinking, when can I network?
Yes.
When have I got time this week where I'm not coaching that I could fit some networking in? And, if you've networking organisations who are quite rigid in, we only offer morning networking, or we're only going to offer evening network, they're not going to appear on my radar really, because, evening networking, isn't something that really interests me, because, by the time I've done a day full of coaching, I'm actually fed up of talking to people at that point. So, it doesn't float my boat. But, mid-morning, lunchtime, mid-afternoon, as you were saying, if you've got children at school, you want networking that fits in around the school run.
Yeah.
If you do want lunchtime networking, then think about a lunch and learn type format where you can bring your lunch along and maybe do listen to a speaker, but the format around it is different. It's much more relaxed, and gives you an opportunity to hear nuggets of wisdom from a business speaker, but without all the other baggage that goes on around it. And as we've talked about, you're in and out in the space of an hour, and then you can get on with the rest of your day. And I think networking organisations, anybody listening in, if you're wondering which way to go forward, then maybe some of the things that Liz and I are suggesting would be worth considering, because we're obviously looking for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice do you give your clients in regard to networking, and is it different advice that you used to give them 2 years ago?
Yes, it is, and that's a very good question. The what advice do I give them about networking? First of all, the two key bits of advice that I give now, which is in a slightly different vein than it would have been 2 years ago. First of all, is it's got to work for your business. Networking for the sake of networking, those days are gone.
Yeah.
You've got to look at networking strategically. You've got to think about what you want networking to do for your business. If you're looking to get new business, then you need to be doing a lot of it, and a lot more than you think. If you are looking to consolidate and build relationships, then you need to be doing that by being consistently attending the networking meetings where you're getting good connections for your business. And the thing that's consistent is that I also say get involved. The biggest thing that made a huge difference for me when I first started networking was getting involved with the organisation that I was networking with. I joined a team straight away because I knew that if I did that, I then had a vested interest to really make it work, make that investment in networking work. What's different, I suppose, now than pre-pandemic, etc., is that I also say, if it's not working, then ditch it. No, in the face-to-face world, I would have been saying, keep at it. It's all about the relationship building, all of that stuff. But these days, I'm much more saying, if you're finding a particular organisation or a style of networking isn't working for you, draw a line, try something else. Because there's so much opportunity out there to find a networking mix that works for your business. Sticking with one thing because you think you should, is not necessarily the right way to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think before we were quite restricted, as you say, certainly in Lincolnshire, where it's a pretty rural county and things only happen in certain places. There were only, a sort of finite number of things that you could go to. But now the world's your oyster, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And I think the other side about that, if you also live in a rural community, as you and I do, one of the other restrictions, which it didn't feel like it was at the time, but with hindsight, is because of those travel restrictions, you were very often networking with the same people.
Yes.
And although, that meant that consolidating relationships was great, and those relationships, built very quickly and were established very quickly. Of course, what it was doing, although at the time I suppose we weren't seeing it as such, is if that there was not a buying relationship with that person, there was never going to be a buying relationship with that person. And so that continual networking and relationship building wasn't going to go anywhere. Whereas, now it's thinking, okay, I can choose from online speed networking. I can choose from online location-based networking, industry-based networking, skill-based networking. I mean, the options are just amazing. And, so I would now say, try as many as you can. Take advantage of as many opportunities to visit online networks, to just put your toe in the water and see what works. And when you find an organisation that works for your business, then make the most of that opportunity.
Yeah. And finally, Sheena, you've recently started a podcast. So tell me about that.
I have. And I can't tell you how nervous I was to tell you about it when we were on stage at Learning Technologies just a few weeks ago, doing a podcast live from a conference event, which was interesting. And, for those of you listening, Liz and I hadn't seen each other since pre-lockdown and then saw each other on stage co-presenting, which was utterly fabulously bonkers and bizarre. But yes, I was literally just about to finish the last set of recordings for new podcast, which was both nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time. And the Flaming Super Business Chat Show launched last week.
Yeah, and I've just listened to your first episode and it was great. So I recommend to everyone to go and have a listen to that.
I wasn't at all nervous when you told me you'd listened to it earlier. It's just like, But no, thank you, Liz. That was brilliant. No, it's been great fun to record the first few episodes with my good friend Amanda Ralston from Dragon VA. And yes, we talk all things business, tips, stories, and there may be a bit of ranting in there as well.
So where can people find your podcast?
They can find it on Anchor FM and also on Apple, which is the best place to go ahead and find it and subscribe. We go every fortnight with a new episode, and it would be lovely to have a few people come along and give us a listen.
I shall look forward to the next one. And how can people contact you if they want to know more about KAPOW?
The easiest way to get hold of me about KAPOW would be to drop me an email. My email address is sheena@kapowme.com. Failing that, poople along to my website. KAPOWme.com is indeed the website address. You can book a discovery call with me and find out a little bit more about how KAPOW could help you.
Well, thank you very much, Sheena, and let's see where our networking journey takes us in the next few years.
Hopefully I will see you a little bit sooner than 2 and a bit years next time
I
round.
hope so.
Maybe I need to go off and do some of the stuff we suggested, Liz. Keep an eye on this space.
Yeah, watch this space, folks. Thank you, Sheena.
It's been a pleasure, Liz. Lovely to chat.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.